Bring this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. If we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley.
Here.
Ms. McGuire.
Here.
Mr. Gajewski.
Here.
Mr. Pinkowski.
Here.
Ms. Carrasco here. Mr. Weed.
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Here. Thank you. Agenda additions. Anybody have anything that they wish to add to our agenda as presented?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'd like to offer to see if the board would be willing to purchase 3 more laptop computers for Mr. Stalker, Ms. Richards, and myself. We were intended to use our laptops that we use at work, but have found this to be a bit of a challenge. So,
Okay.
okay.
Well, let's put this under other, number 3.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? All right then. Next is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Cards?
We have one card from Celeste Krieger who would like to talk about Van Etten Lake, the SAD boat launch and campground.
Okay.
Good evening. I have a few questions concerning those topics. My first question is, do the fees collected from the Ratcliffe boat launch go toward maintaining the lakes and the park areas? And if not, what accounts do these funds go into?
I think the funds that are generated by the boat launch go into the general fund, which can be used for anything, but certainly upkeep of that park or repair of the boat launch, those are things that would qualify.
Okay. My next question is, do any of the fees collected from the Van Etten Lake campgrounds go toward preserving Van Etten Lake? And if not, what accounts or funds do these fees go into?
Same.
Well, there's a separate fund, and we just started that operation last year, so it really hasn't been determined if there's a significant amount of surplus cash where it would go, but right now it stays in the Van Etten Lake Campground Fund per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and my last comment is I am in favor of SAD. In my opinion, this item will always be on my tax bill to help preserve Van Etten Lake. I do not want this lake to become a swamp, so I hope this board can resolve the SAD issues soon. I've been on this lake for 52 years. I'm a 3rd generation property owner, and I've seen a lot of changes on this lake, and I would hope this board would consider using maybe some of their general funds to help preserve our lake and their other natural resources that they have in this county.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Any other cards?
No, sir.
Okay. All right then. And we have a second public comment period at the end of the meeting. So, all right. Next we go to the consent agenda. Meetings of the regular board meeting, closed session, so forth. Any comments on those?
I did give everybody a corrected copy of those.
Okay. All right. Any questions regarding the corrected copy minutes? I guess they look okay. All right. Then financial report, payment of bills over a 3-week period. to the tune of $127,009.12. Anybody have a question on any of the items in that? Okay, hearing none. Third part of our consent agenda is informational items, either by Superintendent Stalker or Community Development Coordinator Ann Richards. Ann has 3 of them tonight. One demolition update and modification of a tenant at the County Medical Center, and also an expansion, kind of a little bit of a balance there. Losing a tenant, but an expansion in the same building. Anything there? Okay, then I need a motion to approve the 3-part consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Okay, moved by Mr. Weed with support from Mr. Hinckley that we do approve the 3-part consent agenda, and then we move on to action reports. Mr. Stalker has his first item deals with the splash park that we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
Don't we need a roll call?
As I had
Consent
indicated
agenda?
at the last meeting, there's the potential for collaborating with local Lions Club in establishing a splash park project. There was a basic design concept.
Mr. Stalker?
Well, excuse me, I forgot to ask for a roll
Oh,
call.
I'm
for
sorry.
Consent agenda, my fault. So, roll call.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. Krasko, yes. Mr. Binkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion carried. Now, again, apologies.
It's okay. I lost my train of thought.
So did I.
Yeah, right. In the original design concept that was presented to the Lions Club for purposes of discussion had both above and below ground features. It was based on a 300 square foot approximately kidney-shaped pad, and it came at a cost of $15,873. That did not include the optional anti-slip surface, which was $3,250. Probably not to be considered optional by a lot of folks, I would guess. There were some concerns at the meeting expressed regarding the cost as compared to our work session discussions. Also questions about operational expenditures moving forward with such a project. So we have gathered some additional information intended to be responsive to the board's request for same, with the intent of hopefully establishing some direction relative to this initiative. For purposes of comparison, we've given you the original proposal, and then by descending order, a second proposal valued at $13,273, which has reduced above-ground features. A third proposal eliminates the below-ground nozzles for $11,845. And you'll note that those latter 2 items are based on the original concept, and there are several fixed costs within that concept regarding the controller and mechanicals that can't be changed. In terms of potentially taking a totally different approach, we provided some information regarding a flower show or water play feature. This is a singular unit, which would come at a cost of $1,750 by the time it was plumbed and a concrete pad built. The estimate from the vendor is $2,500. And then finally, we've provided information regarding a more utilitarian shower tower product that can include from 1 to 6 shower stations at a cost of about $1,500 to $3,500 plus installation. Based on the question regarding operating cost, we've attempted to do an estimate of water consumption. This is for the original concept, and based on a 6-hour operating schedule per day, 7 days per week, a cost of approximately $225 per week would result if the water's running all the time based on our water rates. That doesn't seem likely, given that there'd be a timer at play. So if you were to cut that in half and assume half that time it's going to be in use for a 12-week operating season, you get a total cost of $1,350. In terms of feedback from the Lions Club, there was a discussion with a representative after the meeting, and at least from my perspective, it appeared that if the concept was downscaled significantly, there might be some concern from that perspective. My impression is they're willing to consider alternatives, but if we drastically reduce the scope, their support may wane. So with that, I'm seeking direction from the board regarding the preferred course of action. In doing so, it would seem advisable to establish a tentative budget, desired dimensions of the facility and an approximate configuration, and also confirm the location. And then if we were going to proceed, I would envision putting together some kind of a design build request for proposals based on the budget in cooperation with the Lions Club, and then reporting back to the board.
Bob, in some of the backup information you provided, I believe it was Ann that asked you how much the Lions were willing to put forward. And did you get an answer to that? I didn't.
I believe the commitment is up to $10,000.
Up to 10. Basically 50% of the cost of the project, up to 10.
Yeah, I can confirm that, but that's my understanding.
I guess I just want to say, that question was asked though before we even contacted the splash pad, just so that when I started the dialogue, I knew, I mean, do we have any dollar figure in mind at all for their
Right.
budget, but,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
so.
Do we get any information on what the estimated maintenance costs are?
We don't. That is somewhat difficult to project, given that we don't have any experience with these types of facilities.
More about places that have had ones in place for a while, find out what they have for maintenance costs.
We didn't pursue that because I presume a lot of the cost here would be unique to the location with the sand, et cetera. We certainly can do that.
I think that would be valuable, even though, like you said, maybe somebody else has got one of these installed in a grassy area or something like that, but still we could at least get a little bit of an idea.
Well, we'd have to get one that has fresh water, like we're considering, not a recirculating, because that's where most of your maintenance costs come from.
Okay.
Is if you have the recirculating water, where you have the holding tank and you have all the pumps. If you do that and you put the water through the pumps, especially if you're in a sandy area, the sand wears down the pumps, and that's where a lot of your costs come in. So because we are just using a freshwater system where the water will drain off as brown water, or gray water I think it's called actually, into the ground, we're not treating the water whatsoever, and we're not recycling the water. So from that sense, it will be fresh water that goes through the lines at all times, so that should be less wear and tear on the units themselves, the nozzles that are going out, or the water that's going out of the nozzles and the features. The only thing would be is the sand going through the quote-unquote drains. Jamie had asked me the question earlier about that, about the sand going through the drains, and again, it's a new concept. We can find out, you know, if any other people have had the problems, but I mean, my assumption would be it's a PVC pipe for the drain. You would flush any kind of debris. If it gets stuck, you would flush it, you know, you would flush it out in that manner.
And you had mentioned earlier when we talked about the, because I was worried about in the wintertime and in the spring with how the sand blows and things, but you said that they cover those holes when they're closing it up for the winter, so the sand can't build up into the.
They suggest, the manufacturer suggests actually removing, because all those, the above ground features are bolted, so you would unbolt those two features and put them inside for the summer, or I mean, sorry, for the winter. And then he said you use a sealant, you know, a sealant, put it on and then pull it off in the spring. So it would seal it, those holes or whatever, I guess,
And
the
keep everything
nozzles
out.
to keep sand out. And, you know, and I mean, there is concern, you know, I mean, we're all been down in the spring. Some springs are worse than others for the amount of sand that's on the basketball courts and everything. So, the
We've
game
had-
place we put it.
I know we've had it in the bathrooms down there at the beach where people have taken a bucket of sand, dumped it in the sink, and of course the sink was useless until they actually had to clear out that drain.
Right.
And also with replacement of the anti-skid paint, how often that would need to be done.
Yeah, I would hope that price was about 100-year paint. I thought
I
that
would
was
think.
ridiculous,
3,000
personally, yeah.
3,000 for the-
I mean, you're
There's-
talking $10 a square foot.
Right. That was
I
the
would-
cheaper of
Well,
the three,
and I
so
would
I
hope, but I mean, I would
Right.
like to know that. Also, the controller and active, what kind of warranty do they have on this stuff?
I think that literature was in there, but I believe it's a
Okay, I
1 year.
didn't look through
It might not have included it.
Okay,
Strictly, I can double check.
I mean, that activators, you're talking $3,000 worth of stuff. I would hope it's not just a 90-day and you're out.
Right.
Now, are we planning on having them install it? Because this back here is talking about it has to be perfectly plumb, and if not, you could have issues from that, so are we gonna try to have our guys do it and then
No, the quote that's there is for them to do everything.
for them to
Yes.
do everything, okay?
Going back to the operating cost, we did, when we first started talking about this concept some time ago, we did, because there were some concerns from a staff standpoint with a large-scale spray park in terms of cost. And we had some difficulty finding specific figures. Most municipalities don't account for things to that level of detail, was our experience, just like we don't, frankly. We can try to get that information, or we might have better luck trying to develop an internal estimate, either way. But we could, based on our own crew's experience, try and extrapolate that to an estimate. But again, I think we're gonna have trouble finding something right on point based on that.
I understand that, but having a general idea is better than not knowing at all.
Well, and if we talk to other places too, you can get an idea how we can handle a situation if it does come up, if they've already dealt
These guys
with
ought to be
it.
able to point us in the right direction too.
Yeah, that would be
since
the
they've
first thing, I
Sold
think.
lots of other ones, I would assume.
Go to them and ask, can you give us a list of your customers?
And I think you had mentioned that DPW, specifically Kenny and Phil, were part of like helping with the location of the splash pad and like maybe some of the maintenance issues. Did they have any main concerns, or they thought it was, going to be a feasible place to put it?
The typical concerns of anything down there is the sand and, I mean, for the most part, I hate to bring it up, the elephant in the room is vandalism in general, We do a lot of really nice things and unfortunately, it doesn't always get maintained by the people we install it for. So, both of them had voiced those, but in the same sense, said the same thing as we can't not do anything, and just because of the things that sometimes happen. But we talked about other locations, but felt because of the trees, debris, in the area, it would be the thought of having it there is that people could be on the beach sitting, parents sitting right there close by and be able to watch them. If you get it too far off the beach itself, then you're maybe having a separation of, of activities too much. So, that was kind of the location. Couldn't put it by the band shell area because we don't want to obviously have wet area where, we're encouraging people to sit on a weekly basis. So, so that seemed like kind of the logical. And to be honest, that area, I hate to use the word ugly, but it's a little bit kind of blah and ugly, and thought it would kind of dress it up, so.
And did the idea of the splash park, did that come from you or somebody in the township, or did the Lions come to you with that idea? You, okay, all right.
Based on discussion at the work session and
Okay.
the goal that we'd established.
Okay. Well, I would, just to throw something out to move this along, I would like to see a couple of the key members of the Lions Club that are particularly interested in this project, or sit down with the superintendent and a couple of us and just talk about it a little bit, some of the questions we have, as a start.
I think that's a good idea, Jim.
But I definitely think we should involve a couple of them.
And you had also mentioned when we talked earlier a little bit about the placeholders as far as what you've been learning with the downtown, with your.
Well, it's kind of it's Michigan's concept right now, placemaking. It's the governor's process.
Right.
Placemaking, they're pushing in all all avenues, I guess, of economic development. And that's creating unique areas in your community that offer like public amenities. And it's just things that kind of stand out and create public areas. So, you know, we kind of, you know, this area, to talk about dog parks, I mean, the, you know, the different public spaces that we have, we're already, you know, we look pretty good compared to a lot of communities. But, you know, this does play into that, into the placemaking.
Right.
So.
Okay, any other thoughts? Folks? We're not giving you what you want, really.
Some
You want-
homework.
You want
Yeah.
location, you want configuration,
I think that would be for the group that sits
Yeah.
down. I think getting answers to these questions and then getting together with a group in the next 2 weeks and then maybe next meeting.
okay, let's do that.
Any direction on particular board members that might have an interest in this, or?
I would.
Okay. Bob's next item deals with the possible millage item on the ballot in November for fire department use.
Okay, also at the work session, our most recent work session, we discussed the potential merit of placing a fire service millage proposal before the voters this fall. And the board had asked that some information be compiled such that a proposal might be developed based on those potential cost factors. So what I've done is put together a spreadsheet identifying a number of specific cost factors and then the millage amount required to finance those. In the case of the operating budget, it's based on 3 years average. In the case of the IPC truck payment, that represents our annual debt obligation for the newest fire truck that we bought last fall. The depreciation figure comes from our auditor's schedule for the fire department. The other cost factors include potential restoration of the hydrant rental expenditure item. Longer-serving board members will recall that we eliminated that as part of our budget reconciliation process. Going back several years, it's sort of a standard approach to compensating the water fund for the benefit that it provides in terms of supporting fire service, but we eliminated that. And I realize in presenting it, it might be considered a relatively low priority compared to some of these other items, but I wanted to point it out. Probably of more significance is the fact that self-contained breathing apparatus replacement has been raised during the now current capital improvement updating process, and that results in a pretty substantial number that I don't think has been put before the board in the past in terms of the capital improvement plan. It's not reflected in the depreciation schedule from the auditors because each unit is less than our $7,500 cutoff for capital improvements. Each one of those air packs with mask, et cetera, is about $6,000. So 30 times 6, it results in a pretty large number. We've also provided information regarding the fire millage in Oscoda Township to give you some perspective on how they approach it in our neighboring community. The current levy is 1.4654 mils, or the levy when they renewed in 2011. I presume that was rolled back from a 1.5 mil levy. I've also provided a memo from the assessor that shows the impact on a homeowner in the community with an average valued home, and also the various impacts of a full mil versus quarter percentiles. If we were to move forward in placing a proposal before the voters in November, we would need to have a resolution adopted no later than our August 11th meeting so that it could get down to the county clerk in timely fashion. So I'm looking for feedback as to the purpose of the millage, the amount of the millage, and the term of the millage based on this information and any other the board might deem appropriate to arrive at a conclusion.
Okay. Thoughts or comments on this topic?
Does this also take into account the need to replace the tanker truck?
That presumably is included in the depreciation schedule. The vehicles are in the depreciation.
It's my understanding that the chief, his number one priority is the breathing apparatus at $6,000 per man. Woman.
I think that's considered important. I would say that based on discussion with Al, equipment replacement is the first
Equipment,
priority, yes.
The breathing apparatus was acquired roughly 10 years ago, approaching 10 years, with a grant.
That is correct.
Is the possibility of a grant again?
We certainly can pursue that because the schedule has us starting to replace it in a year. We would have time, but we've not had real good luck with subsequent FEMA grants. We applied for a truck several times. Certainly, it could be pursued.
It was a FEMA grant.
I believe it was, yes.
I think we need to do that, because I can just see voters saying they want us to vote on a millage, and last time they got a grant for it. Didn't even try for the grant this time. So, we need to check on that, I think.
Are we gonna have time to do that before August 11th?
Well, we could certainly check on the
Availability?
feasibility of applying, yes.
Bob, on the breathing apparatuses, would it benefit us to do 2 or 3 of them a year instead of all of them at one time?
It would, and what's been suggested is that we, for purposes of this replacement, do it over a 3-year cycle. But because we received them all through the lump sum grant, it really didn't want to retire them before they were ready to be retired. But under normal circumstances, I would say yes, definitely.
I don't mean to appear to be a penny pincher, because that's not the purpose of this question, but if you have, I'm gonna pick a number, 25 firemen, do you need 25 of these breathing apparatuses? Some firemen in a fire situation run hoses from outside. Not everybody enters a burning building, do they?
They all have the ability, and I think the idea is they would all be in a position at different times, depending on who responds to use
Okay.
the equipment.
All right.
Yeah, they all gotta be qualified, Jim.
Yeah, okay. You can be qualified by training with the stuff, but not having 25 for 25.
But you never know.
Yeah, it's true.
And you don't know what kind of chemicals are gonna be coming out of there while you're running your hoses and
Yep,
stuff, you know,
right.
so.
I was just thinking that some of the guys are specialists at, operating hoses from outside, and others are guys that go in, but apparently not. Everybody does everything. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments?
Were we looking at a combination of things or just like overall operating? I wasn't at the work session, so I'm really not sure what was discussed.
Well, there was discussion, I think, about the specific equipment replacement need, but also discussion about the fact that the millage could be broader than that to cover the entire operating budget. And the question was, well, if we were to look at it based on various components, what would the impact be in terms of required millage?
What is the millage language in Oscoda? Are they real specific or?
It's quite general.
Quite general, just for the fire department, what uses they decide.
Fire protection.
In the work session, we talked about doing it as a fund for repairing and replacing their equipment, especially since we have additional trucks that need to be replaced while we have a current loan for the new truck.
You're gonna just replace the chassis on that tanker or the whole tanker and all?
I'm not sure I know which vehicle you're referring
In
to.
these tanker truck,
Water tank.
water tank transfer truck.
I'm not sure what the plan is, to be candid with you. I certainly can find out. But I guess I hadn't heard that that was in the offing.
I've heard different firemen say it is really dangerous to drive.
drive.
You know, it just
Well-
trucks all over the place.
That's been a long-standing bone of contention, to be candid, and it has been tested, and so, to the
It's kind
best
of a
of...
homemade thing, isn't it, a little bit? I mean, wasn't it made locally?
The tank was,
Yeah.
but the truck was an
Yeah.
old fire truck.
And the truck can't even make it up a hill unless they get a running start at it.
Yeah, I think the power may be more the issue than the safety. But I was not aware that there was a plan in the offing to do anything with it in the short term, anyway.
Well,
So is that what, I guess, is that what everybody's looking towards, is the repair and replacement?
I'm not sure. I thought maybe it was part of it.
That's what I was looking for, was maintenance and replacement of their equipment.
any equipment, right? Big stuff like the tanker truck and.
Yeah.
Correct.
All of it.
Breathing
Yeah.
apparatus, the trucks,
Right.
masks.
I mean, you have $1 million worth of stuff between trucks and equipment, so, and a lot of it is from the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
vehicle-wise, 80s and early to middle 90s, which is a long time ago now.
And Bobby said that was the chief's main concern also?
First and foremost is equipment replacement. I certainly don't want to speak for him, but that was my impression. Yes.
What does the board think about a special meeting with the chief? I know nobody likes meetings, but we're kind of behind the 8 ball in time here. Just sit down with him and get his thoughts. Would that be useful, or just a
I
Yeah,
think
just
it'd be useful.
Useful,
special
useful.
board meeting
We
or
know
just a
exactly
special
where he wants
meeting
to go
meeting?
with it.
special board meeting so we can all hear what he has to say? Or a work session type thing, or whatever you wish. Bob, work session?
I'd just soon do it maybe like early before our next meeting in 2 weeks, like a 6 or 6:30.
Oh, okay. And it would be a work session, and then we
We
would
could
go
make
into our
it work,
regular
yeah.
meeting. Okay. Does that sound good?
Yep.
6 o'clock,
6 o'clock.
an hour to discuss a
Mhm.
pretty important thing? All right, let's do that then. Do we need a motion for that? Let's have one.
I move that we schedule a work session to discuss fire department needs at 6 PM on July 28th.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Hinckley's motion, supported by Mr. Gayaski. Roll call, please.
Mr. Minkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Fire?
Yes, motion carried. And the third item that Bob has for us tonight is possible recommendation to rehiring of a utility billing clerk.
Yes, and I do not have a specific recommendation this evening, but given the fact that our current employee is now training to make the transition to deputy clerk, and we're getting a little bit short on time, I would, if the board would be amenable to it, appreciate having the authority to go ahead and fill the position as soon as we practically can do that. If it turns out that timing would support coming back to the next meeting, I would do that. If we could fill it sooner, which frankly I believe may be the case, then I would move forward and do that.
Thoughts on that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Yep.
motion?
Yep.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire and support from everybody.
From the rest of the board.
Okay. That we allow the superintendent to hire what he perceives to be a qualified candidate, the best qualified candidate. And assuming that would be before our next meeting on the 28th of July. Roll call, please.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Minkowski?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion carried. Next item, this is an idea that Aaron put forth 2 or 3 weeks ago, that perhaps we ought to sit down and discuss next summer's fireworks and not have the kind of fiasco that we had this year. So, if I haven't stolen your thunder, go ahead.
That's okay. I think I said it was a significant challenge.
Rather than fiasco. That's better.
I had discussed the recent fireworks show with our vendor, and now that it's behind us, and got feedback that the implementation generally it went well, even taking into account the logistical challenges of getting the materials out onto the jetty. And it was indicated that the assistance offered locally through representatives and employees of both townships was hugely helpful in making the show a success. So board should be aware of that. We had some folks who worked very hard on behalf of the community to make that happen. But given the fact that we ran into the challenges that the supervisor has just alluded to, which were further complicated by the piping plover protection requirements, it would seem advisable that consideration be given, as suggested by Trustee Weed, to beginning the planning process for next year sooner rather than later. And my thought is that it would be of benefit to do that while the recent events and challenges relative to the show are still fresh in everybody's mind. And there is no magic formula to do this, but my thought is at least one reasonable approach initially might be to reconvene the group that was meeting immediately in advance of the fireworks show this July, that being our supervisor, myself, representatives of ASABL, and at least one fireworks fundraising committee representative. That group could obviously be expanded as deemed appropriate, but I think part of the benefit is that there is some institutional knowledge there already. There were several discussions held between those parties and also with the representatives of the various agencies. So we would essentially be getting a running start. So, and I've talked with ASABL Township, at least a representative, and they appear amenable to proceeding along those lines. So I'm seeking endorsement to begin those talks from the board, subject to identification of representatives that would represent Oscoda Township. Obviously, any determination as to locations, et cetera, would be brought back before the board, and I presume the board and ASABL also. But seems advisable to begin soon.
Board members have any thoughts on this? Good idea, bad idea, too early?
I think it's a good idea.
It's about the right time while things
Yeah.
are fresh?
Yeah.
Never too late.
I'll
Or
make a
too early.
motion and identify the same that was represented before, yourself and Mr. Stalker.
Okay. And would you also agree that if anybody else is really into this, it can be added?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's talk to Bob.
I think we might want to add somebody from the police department on there.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have support for that motion?
Support.
Okay. Supported by yourself. Any other comments, discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Motion carried. All right. Back to the fire department. We have a piece of equipment that we would like to get rid of.
Yes, very badly, but board will recall that we've tried a couple times on the state website to dispose of our 1985 GMC fire truck on a competitive auction basis. We have been unsuccessful in that regard, so the thought was then that we would look at prospects for converting the vehicle for beneficial township use. In particular, we were considering a dump truck. The vehicle was provided to a local truck repair and maintenance facility, and we received an estimate that to do the required modifications, which I've listed in my report here, that are fairly substantial, we would incur an estimated cost of $11,000. Staff does not believe that's advisable, in that the final result is likely to be having more money in the vehicle than it would be worth. So that leaves us, if the board were to accept that conclusion, which certainly requires some discretion, that leaves us with the question of how best to dispose of the vehicle. We've got at least one interested party locally who has indicated they'd pay $2,000 for it. So one alternative might be to solicit sealed bids locally with a minimum bid of $2,000. We could relist it on the state auction website with a reduced bid amount, but again, we didn't have good experience there. Mark indicates that there are several trucks on there listed on a pretty consistent basis, and that might be part of the challenge. But in any event, the conversion approach does not seem to be viable.
When you solicit bids, do you get into any detail about the condition of the vehicle?
Locally,
Yes.
we make it available for inspection.
This is for the audience's benefit. This is the fire engine that has been sitting in the fire barn in Footsite for a number of years. And we have since transferred that fire barn to the county. So we need to do something with that vehicle. Okay. Do we have a comment, a question, a motion?
I'll move we proceed with the local bid process with a minimum bid of $2,000.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hinkle with support from Mr. Lee. That we do begin a local bidding procedure, minimum bid 2,000. And anything else, anybody? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkowski?
Yes.
Ms. Croswell, yes. Mr. Fire?
Yes. Motion carried. Final item for Bob is a memorandum of understanding regarding the use of the band shell at Oscoda Beach Park.
Yes, many years ago, the memorandum was established between the chamber and the township to define roles and responsibilities of both the township and the chamber relative to use of the band shell at the beach park and scheduling of events, etc. That the development of the memorandum followed a cooperative partnership between the township and the Rotary Club that basically allowed the band shell to be constructed and implemented. The idea in putting the memo together originally was to maximize benefit to the community by allowing the chamber to promote and schedule, put the events on their marketing materials, etc. And the underlying premise was that would have mutual benefit to both the chamber and the township. There's also some benefit in the agreement in terms of determining how access will be governed. The memo has been expired for several years, but we have maintained the cooperative relationship between the township and the chamber, so it would appear appropriate to consider renewing it and putting the agreement back in place formally. I'm suggesting that if we do that, it be based on a 5-year term, and that is the only change in the proposed memorandum as compared to the original, is the term which is established in paragraph 3.
Okay, well, this appears to me, unless I'm missing something, kind of an easy one, just renew the understanding.
So moved.
Okay,
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire with support from Mr. Reed that we do execute the memorandum of understanding and have it be consistent with the expired document. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Kayasky?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion carried. And we move on to the Community Development Coordinator. Ann has an action item involving Building 401, heating and cooling modifications.
Thank you. As per conditions set forth in the lease agreement with the current tenant, Schmidt, the township is responsible for maintaining the HVAC system. Late this winter, early spring, I was approached by the operations manager of Schmidt, indicating that the front offices in the main warehouse were not maintaining a proper temperature and that cooling element did not work in the summer months. In discussing this problem with the Township Department of Public Works, it would appear that this has been an ongoing problem for several years, and there was a temporary fix completed on the building's main air handler to put a Band-Aid on the system that feeds that area. After review of the current condition and consultation with several area heating cooling specialists, it is the consensus opinion that based on the amount of work that would need to be done in the main air handler and the estimated costs involved, which were upwards of $15,000, it would be more cost-effective and energy efficient to abandon the old system and install a new heating cooling unit in an adjacent storeroom to those front offices. To that end, with the assistance of our Department of Public Works employee, Kevin Smith, we contacted 4 heating and cooling companies in the area to obtain price quotes to complete the work. The township's purchasing policy does require 3 competitive quotes under normal circumstances. And although repetitive attempts were made, only 2 of the 4 contacted did return quotes. Those quotes were attached to my report for your information and review. After review with the quotes and discussion with Kevin, it was determined that we would request to seek approval from the board to move forward with the price quote from Lamrock Incorporated for the proposed work. Although this is a non-budgeted expense, there is $4,000 in the property O&M building maintenance budget line item that is still available for this type of work or maintenance. So at this time, I am seeking approval from the board to move forward with the estimate received from Lamrock in the amount of $4,140. And when I looked at my packet, for some reason there's a double copy in there. Boy, I think we were experiencing some copy machine problems. So there's 2 quotes back there. The one from Goyette was $5,281 for the same work.
And were all 4 of the heating cooling companies local companies, or
Yes.
was there anybody outside of that?
So they were all local.
You recontacted them?
Yes, several times.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's in all fairness to them, it's a busy
Yeah.
time of the year, I guess. I mean, but that being said, I mean, we kept waiting and waiting to get the other 2 quotes, and it's just kind of been, like I said, we were approached late winter, early spring, so.
I'll move that we go ahead with Lamrock Inc. for the cost of $41.40.
Support. Okay. Motion made by Mr. Binkowski with support from Mr. Hinckley. And I'm assuming, Ann, that this work is something that this building needs no matter who the tenant is, right?
For the front offices that are all along there, yes. And it could be more easily controlled. That was the whole problem with the big air handler system, trying to control all of it. Mhm.
Any other discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Kayasky?
Yes.
Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Under other, we have no resolutions or ordinances tonight, so we're moving to other. And we have 3 items there. The non-motorized pathway committee.
It's been brought to my attention that the non-motorized pathway committee that's working on the River Road et cetera project, the large project that we recently engaged Spicer to put the plan together for, is seeking alternate members from each community. Mr. Weed is our representative currently, and the question is who, if anyone, would like to serve as the alternate. And again, my understanding is that the group is soliciting input from the various potential participants as to alternates so that they can maintain momentum scheduling-wise when folks aren't available.
Okay. Do we have any immediate people jumping up and saying, I could be the alternate?
I know I had previously been interested in it, and I think Aaron and I had talked about it, maybe possibly being the alternate. But given the dynamics in my office lately with the changes, I'm gonna have to decline it right now. So if somebody else wants to do it, they can.
If we don't have any board members, then Alex Sidis might be a good candidate for this.
Oh, yeah. Have you talked to him about this?
I have not. It was a discussion between Mr. Stalker and I.
Okay. Well, let's give the board members a couple days to come out of the woodwork and then the suggestion of Al might pursue that. Okay. Next item, the public funds, for lack of a better word, charity or non-charity committee has a vacancy. All board members, I think, are quite aware of the reason for the vacancy, but we need someone, I don't know if we really need 3 on the committee, but apparently that's a preferred number, so.
Well, Jim, if the board members don't really feel that there's a need to change the policy, then we can just disband the committee and leave it go as is, if that's the way it needs to
Feeling on
go.
that?
So,
That's the way I feel.
just a thought. I mean, we got direction when we had our meeting, and perhaps that's all we were looking for and need, is to go in and try to rewrite the whole thing.
I guess we could decide that with a motion, that we just stay with the policy we have now.
And
If the board members don't agree.
take it on a case-by-case, just as we've always done, kind of thing?
Yeah. You want to make that motion?
Oh, I was just gonna ask you if that was your
I
motion.
will second that motion.
Oh, all right.
Is that what our policy says, case by case? Or
It doesn't,
do we not
but
have
I
a
mean,
policy, so we're just,
well, I mean, if,
Policy.
We have a
do.
policy.
We have a
and
policy.
It comes in front of us every time.
that's
so-
what I thought, just
Yeah.
like when we were doing things at the Warrior Pavilion.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
so, but I mean, if something comes through and we have to look at it and say, oh, our policy says,
Okay.
so.
Further questions or discussions before we vote?
I thought the old policy was fine. We shouldn't have been contributing.
Okay.
I was always the one that always said no, 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 but, but that's what the policy said, so.
Well, this was all my mess because
I started it.
we're all to blame.
I'll send the supporting documents to all the board members so that you know what was involved, I guess during the first work session regarding the documents that were brought forward, and that way everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so my motion is gonna be keep the policy as it is and dissolve the committee? Does that sound about right? Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, motion carried. Item number 3, request for the purchase of 3 more laptops.
Question has emerged recently whether it would be advisable to purchase 3 more laptops. And in the case of a little bit different circumstances, in the case of our township clerk and myself, we have laptops. And the question is whether it's practical to haul them back and forth and use them in the setting here. And I guess we can certainly talk about that. In the case of a third computer, there is a little bit different circumstance, and we're talking in that case about a machine that Ms. Richards would be acquiring, basically as much as a replacement for an older piece of equipment as needed in conjunction with board meetings. So a little bit different scenarios, but nonetheless, overall would result in the potential need to purchase 3 more laptops.
Well, I know Ann's is at least 7 years old.
Right, well, that's, mine would be to replace what I currently
Right.
have, so.
So what's the issue, I mean, because how old is your laptop or how old is Chris's? 'Cause she's got 2 PCs that she works on plus a laptop already.
No, I just have one PC. They're for the accounts payable. I don't have 2.
Oh, and then you just have your laptop?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to your old PC that was in the clerk's office?
I replaced it with a laptop,
Oh, okay. How old is your laptop?
5 years old.
And what's the issue? Why can't you use them to be compatible with?
We could. The question is the convenience of using the touch screen, the using your primary computer, hauling it back and forth. It could certainly be done.
The question with Bob's was, he has everything there. He has his voice recognition, and if something should happen to that computer, that's his whole computer that's out of commission. That was the only issue on that
Hauling
one.
it around and back and forth.
Well, we have to haul these all over the place.
But you only
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
one
but we
thing in
don't have
there.
anything on it,
Yeah,
right?
if all of the township's treasurer information, you might be a little more careful with it. Concerned about leaving it in the
I
car.
wouldn't leave it on here, it would be
Well,
backed up on something and kept in my office.
Well, but that's the only
Right. No, I
computer Bob
understand.
has
Right.
in his office, yeah. I think that's the point, isn't
That,
it?
that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the cost of the computers, Bob?
Excuse me?
What was the cost of each computer?
$498.
They were $499, but I actually found them for $468, the exact same computer.
Does it include so yours is looking just for board packet use, that kind of?
Right, and normally, if these were just regular computers, they would be purchased through the budget, but we had specifically talked about buying 6 of them, so felt compelled to bring the discussion forward, because it's different than what we discussed before.
I'll move we go ahead with the purchase of 3 more.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Witkowski with support from Mr. Gieske. We do go ahead with the purchase of 3 more laptop computers. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Carrasco, yes. Mr. Pankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Hinckley?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Make your computer eat.
Okay. There was an extra vote there. Did you record
I
it?
did, I got that one, you know.
Public comment. Do we have anybody that wishes to say anything? No cards needed? Okay. Yes.
One thing I should mention, Jim, is Catherine Garnham from F&V is here this
Yes,
evening.
I have that written down.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, and she's here to introduce herself and answer any questions the board might have relative to the operating report that's included as an informational item.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Catherine. She, if you wish.
Hi, for those of you who haven't met me, my name is Catherine Garnham, and I'm the new regional manager for F&D operations. And I'll be working directly with the local staff here for the wastewater treatment and water distribution systems for Oscoda Township. So I've been in the business for about 25 years and have state certification for both wastewater and water, so I'm able to help on both of those parameters with the staff. So I've met Supervisor Bear before and Mr. Gieske and of course Bob, so if anybody else had any specific questions or comments.
Catherine replaces Bob Bingle, as some of you knew.
Okay.
Bob retired. Anyway, thank you very much for coming.
And I'll be attending the next board meeting. I'll be presenting the June operating report. And then I'd hope to get on a consistent basis, attending probably the second board meeting each month with that operating report and keeping you guys all abreast of everything that's going on in the system. All right?
If you keep that up, you're gonna be busy every Monday night.
It keeps me out of trouble.
Oh, darn it.
Okay. Board comments?
Mimi. Just again to remind everybody, election August 5th. Absentee ballots, give us our office a call, 739-4971, if you'd like an absentee ballot sent to, or we'd send you the application. We receive it back and then we can send you the ballot. You can come into the office and pick them up. You just need to show identification when you're in there. If you don't get an absentee ballot, then we expect to see everybody on August 5th.
What's the deadline for applying for an absentee ballot? Is there-
The Saturday before the election. We'll be in our office from 9 to 2, and that's, you can also get an absentee ballot the following Monday, but you cannot leave the building with it. You must fill it out in our office on that Monday before the election. But you can get one all the way through the Saturday before the election, take it home, fill it out. They just have to be back, unless you get it on that Monday, like I say, by 8 o'clock on Tuesday night.
What kind of operating hours do we have on Saturday, August 2?
No,
You said the
yeah,
Saturday.
9 to 2.
9 o'clock till 2 in the afternoon on
Mhm.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And that's the only business we conduct on that day is absentee ballots.
And each board member, I think I hit everybody with the invitation from Mrs. Carol Plunky of the Pine River Van Lake Watershed Coalition on the 24th. I believe that's a Thursday, that they're having a meeting at the Greenbush Town Hall, and I'm sure she would appreciate as much representation from Oscoda Township as she could possibly get. It's a couple hours, 12 till 2. And they're asking for a phone call to let them know so they can plan on the food. Kind of important to our township, you know, watershed in Bennett Lake. So, and I think the general public, I'm not sure, but I think the general public is also.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay. So, anyway, give it some thought, and that's all from me, so. Anybody else have anything?
And
I just wanted to mention that next week is the Canoe Marathon Week. Lisa Sutton from the Chamber couldn't be here this evening, so I told her I would speak on a few things. We all know that the Canoe Marathon itself is Saturday in Grayling and ends here on Sunday, but during the week there's activities. Tuesday night is the Dash for Cash. That's Tuesday, July 22nd. That's is from 3 to 6. That's more of a spectator sport for the area. Racers there's a $5,000 prize pool, and they compete for that based on the best time. On Wednesday, July 23rd, is the HUP race, which stands for Hurry Up and Paddle. The last year, the township entered, Oscoda Township and AuSable Township both entered entries in here, and we raced against each other. I'm thinking that we're going to be doing that again this year, so I just wanted to mention that to the board members. If you want more information, let me know, but that's where it's a $60 kit, and with that you have to build a canoe. The material is 1 sheet of plywood, or luan I should say, a 4x8 sheet, 2 2x4x8 boards, 1 pound of nail, and 1 roll 2 inches by 60 yards of duct tape. And that's what you are allowed to build that canoe with. So you can paint it with a latex paint, no stickers are allowed. We like to do themes and so on, but it's a lot of fun. The community is, I think we had, how many participants did we have last year? Like, yeah, it was, at least that or more, but I'm hoping to get a few more. It's pretty fun. And then this year, there's a new event called the Blind Canoe Race. It's on Thursday, July 24th. Again, that's the same location, which is at the canoe. Stop laughing, Jamie. That's at the canoe rental, Oscoda Canoe Rental. That's 3 people in a canoe, 2 of which are blindfolded and 1 is driving. I'm trying to put together an Oscoda Township team to kind of challenge maybe AuSable Township. I think this would be kind of fun. So anybody interested, let me know. you know?
We have our team.
Yeah, we're pretty sure we might have one team already, but, you know, we could have a few teams going here. But I think it's an obstacle course, to the best of my knowledge, but, yeah, I don't know. I think, Aaron, you were there last year for the HUP race. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun. There's some people that get really, really involved in the costumes and everything, and some sink right away. Ours did not sink, but unfortunately we didn't win, but we'll see what we come up with for this year. But so I just wanted to mention that. But any questions, just get a hold of me. Not to put anybody on the spot right now for entering, but we'd love to have board participation if they are in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Just a quick observation. I'm reading a book now by Bill Geist and his son Willie Geist. Some of you may have seen Bill Geist on Sunday mornings. Willie Geist is on Morning Joe on MSNBC every weekday. And they have just a book about their experiences as a family. And they were talking about buying a Jeep, the family Jeep. Lasted them 10, 15 years or something. He used to take it to Nantucket Island and race up and down the beach until the piping plovers came along. The beach was blocked off and all their fun with the Jeep was ended forever. So I thought, help me, I can relate to that. Anyway, apparently they're not as rare as we thought. So, anyway, all right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.